Howdy folks and welcome. This video is an introduction to NPM or Node Package Manager. If you're new to NPM, this video will give you a quick introduction on how to get started with it and how to use it to install a library for a project, which is a crucial skill for programming in Node. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so what is NPM? As mentioned in the intro, NPM it stands for Node Package Manager. What that means is it's a system for allowing you to install packages or node modules into your projects, allowing you to add libraries and frameworks and all kinds of stuff to your project. People out there in the world have written NPM packages for your usage. NPM packages range from simple and lightweight and easy to use to massive and complex libraries that require a long time to study and practice and get familiar with. In this example, we'll just install a really easy and lightweight example to get you started. Okay, so I have here an empty project, and my goal for this project is to install a simple library and use it. For this example, I want to install a library that allows me to color code my console log messages in Node. So in order to do that, my project needs to have what's called a package.json file. The package.json file is a file that keeps track of various pieces of metadata information for my project, including the dependencies. Dependencies is a term for things that we've installed that our project will use. And so the package.json file is a file that keeps track of those dependencies. So I don't have a package.json file here in this project. I could manually create one, but fortunately there's an easier way to create one. And that is with a terminal command. And that terminal command is npm init. So when we run npm init, it will take me through a series of prompts, all of which I'm responding to by hitting enter and accepting the default response. And so once that's done, a package.json file is created. Let's have a look at it. It gives it a name, a project name, version, description, etc., etc. These are all default answers. This name came from the folder name for this project that I created. Scripts, which we won't get into in this video, and author and license. But one thing that is not in here is dependencies, because we haven't installed any dependencies yet. But now that we have a package.json file, we can install a dependency and have it added to this package.json file. So, as I mentioned earlier, I wanted to install a library that would allow me to color code my console log messages. So what I could do is just Google npm package for color coding console logs in Node. And sure enough, I've been here before. So there's this npm package called console log colors. Let's check it out. So when you visit the website for an npm package, you'll typically see something that looks like this. This page should have some nice documentation on how to install the library, but also how to use it. So as you can see here, it has some examples, shows me how to bring it into my project and run a few commands, with these examples that will console log some green strings. Okay, this is looking good. This is what I want. I want to be able to color code my console log messages. So I'm going to install this. I can just copy this installation command. npm install followed by a library name is the standard way to install a package and have it be added to the dependencies of your project. So let's go ahead and run that. in our terminal. NPM install console log colors. And you saw it was briefly sort of downloading and installing. And after I ran that, it created two more things. It created a package lock.json and a node modules folder. Both of these things that were created, the package lock and the node modules folder, are important for the dependencies to work, but they're not super important for you, the programmer, to understand. The package lock.json manages the version numbers and the dependency tree for the project. And the node modules folder basically contains all of the code that the libraries utilize. And when you install a package or a dependency, oftentimes that package or dependency will have its own dependencies, and those all get added to the node modules folder. And when you're installing a lot of packages or a really large package, the node modules folder can be quite large. Fortunately, you basically can just leave these two things untouched. So now I have installed that, what was it called? Console log colors library. And if we go back to the package.json, you'll see now we have some dependencies. Well, we have just one, console log colors. So it's been added and you can see the version number, etc. And if you decide, oops, I installed the wrong library or I don't want this one, you can run npm uninstall console log colors. And it gets removed from the dependencies. So, but I do want to have it, so let's install it again. But let's say actually I wanted maybe an earlier version of it. I can specify a version when I install an NPM package. So I could, let's say if I wanted 0.3.0, I could run the command npm install. Well, let's just grab, and then what you do is you add an @ symbol, and then you can specify a version number. We're going to try 0.3.0. And sure enough, the version number changed. If you don't specify a version number, by default, it will install the latest available version. And that's actually what we want to do. So I'm going to rerun the original command, and that's strange. It went to 0.3.5. So let's uninstall. Because, you know, we want that version 4. I wasn't expecting that. Okay, I uninstalled it completely, and now I can run just the regular npm install console log colors command, and we're back to version 0.4.0. Okay, this has now been successfully installed, and we're ready to use it. I don't have a JavaScript file yet, so I can't really use it without that. So let's go ahead and create one, and we'll call it index.js. Okay, I'm ready to figure out how to bring this library into my project and use it. Best way to figure that out is to look at the documentation. So they show me here that I can use the require command to bring it into my project. And what they've done here is they are just importing certain functions from the library. So I'm just going to copy the command from this example and paste it into my project. Okay, so I'm getting access to these functions and properties called color, log, red, green, cyan, cyan bright. I imagine that's probably not the complete list of the colors that they have available. All right, let's look down a little further and see what they have for us. They have some examples like this. Let's just copy those. Yeah, let's go ahead and grab a couple more. Yeah, let's start with these and see how it goes. Okay, so I've used the require command to bring this node package into my project. Require is a command that imports a module. If there is no path specified, if it's simply just the name of the module, Node will look inside of the Node modules folder for that particular module. And hopefully it'll be there. If not, it will give you an error saying module not found. If you're importing something from within your own project, perhaps you've made something that you want to import from another file in this project, you simply specify a relative path and then the name of that file, and then you can use require to import whatever is being exported from that file. We're not going to do that in this example. We're simply focusing on importing the NPM package that we installed. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this. Let's see what happens. So I'm going to run this file with node index.js. Whoa! I have all these green strings, and I have one that's got like a red background color. Pretty cool. So now we can look at the code and sort of see how this is being done. Okay, well now we're starting to dig into this specific library. And if we look at the code examples, we see there's 3 different ways I can console log in green. I can use this green function that we imported, or I can use the color object, which has a green property, and achieve the same effect that way. Or I can just use the color object straight up and hand it 2 arguments, the string we're logging and the name of the color that we want it to be. That's kind of cool. And then here's the one that's red. It's not really cyan though, that's white. But it's showing us that we can change styles, give it a red background, make it bold, and make it underline. It's certainly doing these 3 things. And then there's a log function. That's cool. So we're using that. That's cool. And so I can start to experiment with it. Like, I don't know, what would happen if I deleted all these examples and only imported this color object, and I said console log color dot, let's see if there's a blue one. Okay, there's a blue property. And then I say this is a blue string. Let's see if that works. And it works. So now I'm already starting to figure out how this library works, just from looking at a couple of examples and kind of figuring it out. And if I get confused, I can read more of the documentation and maybe learn more about what it is that I'm actually doing. But there you have it. That's the idea. This is how you get started utilizing third-party libraries. You install them using NPM. There are other ways of installing libraries, but NPM is a great one. It's very straightforward. And so to recap, what we did is we ran npm init in order to create the package.json file. And before we installed anything, there were no dependencies. So we ran npm install console log colors, and this showed up in the dependencies. When we did that, it created the package lock.json and the node modules, because those are required for the library to work properly. But then, since the library is installed, we can import it into our JavaScript and start using it. This syntax here you may or may not be familiar with. It's called object destructuring. I could import the entire library and probably just go like this. See if that works. Yeah. So if you just want to import the entire library and assign it to a variable, you can do it that way. It's typical to give the name of the variable that you're saving the library into something that makes more sense, maybe something more specific than entire library. But when we ran require and specified this package name, it worked because it has been added to the dependencies and the code is all there in the node modules, and the package lock.json is set up properly. So now you're ready to start looking up libraries that suit your own needs. start experimenting with this. See if you can install a library and figure out how to use it. Maybe you could follow along with this example and see if you can simply make that work. But this is a very, very powerful tool to have in your coding tool belt, because NPM packages are vast in number, and some of them are just amazingly well built and powerful. Real quick, one thing I forgot to mention is that if you are working with someone else's project that has a package.json and has dependencies in it, in order for you to get those dependencies installed and have that code work properly, all you have to do is run npm install. You don't need to specify any libraries. If you just run npm install, Node will look inside of the package.json and install everything that's listed in the dependencies and the specific version numbers that are specified. So that's a nice simple command, npm install. That's all you have to do to get anything that's in the package.json from someone else's project installed on your machine. Alrighty, folks. Until next time, happy coding.